All right, so we're here at lesson 21. We're looking at the size of product relating to fractions and decimals. So our goal is I will be able to explain the size of the product, or the answer, and relate fraction and decimal equivalents to multiplying a fraction by 1. Woohoo! All right, so we're going to look at a review real quick. If you don't have these conversions memorized, if you don't know that 3 feet is the same as 1 yard, if you don't know how many quarts are in a gallon, how many inches are in a foot, or how many cups in a pint, you need to have them memorized by our test. All right, there's 33 lessons where we still have a while, right? But you still need to have these memorized, okay? So you're going to go ahead, pause this video. You're going to find out the answers, and you'll see these again in the quiz. So pause now. All right, welcome back. So problem 1, we're going to look at 2 halves of 3/4. All right, so our of means we are multiplying. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out. 2 halves of 3/4. All right, there is our multiplication problem. That's how we show it numerically. All right, but I'm also going to show down here, I'm going to show our fraction model. All right, I'm going to start with 3/4. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go ahead and highlight 3 of them. Okay. Then I'm going to come the other way. Now I'm showing 2 halves. So I'm going to go ahead show it in halves. And then it's a little bit different, right? I'm going to show 2 halves. Well, I get to shade the whole thing. Right? 2 out of 2, I'm shading everything. All right, so question, how many are double shaded? If you count, there are 6 out of 8 altogether. All right, let's go up to our multiplication problem, make sure we're right. 2 times 3 is 6, yeah, and 4 times 2 is 8. All right, now you've probably noticed that there's a number that goes into 6 and 8, right? So you can reduce this. If you divide each number by 2, you're going to get 3/4. Now, hopefully, maybe you have noticed that we started with 3/4. Why is our answer 3/4? All right, so how does the size of our answer compare to the size of our original fraction here? Well, they're the same, right? Even though it says 6/8, if you reduce it, it's still 3/4. So they're the same. So how is it possible that our quantity, right, the number changed, or sorry, the amount did not change, but that we multiplied, right? Because usually when we multiply, the answer is different than what we multiplied by, okay? Well, take a look at this. 2/2 is the same as 1 whole, okay? So you might be thinking, why are we learning this? Well, you're going to see in a little bit why, because it will help us later on. All right, so let's see if this is true for this problem, okay? Maybe it's just that one that I gave you. Well, instead, let's do 3/3 of 3/4. I'm going to just do it numerically. All right, so 3/3 times, of means times, 3/4. All right, so 3 times 3, we get 9, and 4 times 3, we get 12. All right, you should have noticed, hey, we can reduce, right? 3 can go into both, and guess what? It's the same thing, 3/4. All right, we just multiplied by 1 because 3/3 is the same as 1. I could do this with any bigger fraction. Let's say I wanted to do 1,000,000 over 1,000,000 times 3/4. Well, it'll still reduce down to 3/4. All right, because 1,000,000 over 1,000,000 is still 1. All right, so why are we doing this? Here we go. Let's say I had 1/5. Okay, and I wanted to express it, or I wanted to write it as a decimal. Well, we know that we can't put 1/5 as a decimal right now because the denominator always has to be a 10, a 100, or a 1,000 because that's our place values, right? Tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. So I will have to multiply 2/2. Why did I choose 2/2? Well, guess what? 5 times 2 is 10. So let me show you. Here we go. We have 1/5, and we're going to multiply by, if you can tell I'm trying to go fast with writing this. All right, we're going to multiply by 2/2. So 1 times 2, we get 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Look at that! We have a 10. Whoa. We have a 10 in the denominator, which means we can now turn it into a decimal. All right, so 2/10 as a decimal looks like 0.2, right? Our 2 is in the tenths place. So, can we say that 1/5 is the same as 2/10? Yes, it is. All right. So we did not change the actual amount of 1/5. We just changed the units that it was in, right? Because we multiplied by 2/2. All right, let's try this one. Okay, 1/4. How can I put 1/4 into a decimal? It's not as easy as the last one we did. Sorry, but we can still work this. Can we put 1/4 into tenths? Is there anything times 1 or times 4 that will get us to 10? No, there's not. Okay, so we're going to now focus on 100. Is there something that we can multiply 4 by to get 100? Hopefully you said 25. Maybe you even thought 250 will get us to 1,000. Either way, it works. So we're only going to do the first one. Okay, because you know that when you reduce, you'll get the same thing, all right? So let's do 25 over 25 multiplied by 1/4, all right? That'll give us, this is a 4, sorry. All right, that'll give us 25 over 100, because 4 times 25 is 100. Now, can I put this as a decimal? You bet I can. So, we're in hundreds. The 5 has to be in the hundreds place. I'm going to show my decimal, and I have 2 place values behind. This is my hundreds place. I'm going to put a 2 here, and look, my last number 5 is in the hundreds. I'm going to put a 0 here just to show that there's no whole numbers. All right, so 1/4 as a decimal is 25 hundredths. All right. That one was still a little bit easy. Let's see if we can do 1/8. Now, this is a little bit harder, okay? We cannot multiply 8 by anything to get 10. Can we multiply 8 by anything to get 100? No, we can't. So, my question is, can I multiply 8 by something to get 1,000? The answer is yes. All right, now, easiest way to do this, right, is to do 1,000 divided by 8, okay? I don't expect you to know 8 times what is 1,000, okay? If you want to go ahead and pause and figure it out for yourself, you can, but I'm about to tell you, it's 125. So, I'm going to do 1/8 times 125 over 125. Okay, that is a 5. Ignore it. Well, don't ignore it, but just know that it's a 5. All right. Man, 5s are the hardest to write. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply across. I get 125 over 1,000. All right, now can I put this into decimal form? You bet. So I'm going to show my decimal. I have to go all the way to the thousands place, and my 5 goes in the thousands place. And then my 2, that's a 2, ignore it, and a 1. Do I have any whole numbers? I don't. So my 1/8 is the same as 125 thousandths. All right, so what I want you to do right now is you're going to try 2/8. Okay, now you're still going to use this 125 over 125 because 8 times 125 will get you to a 1,000. You just multiply 2 times 125. All right, you'll see that on your quiz. All right, last slide. We're going to do the first 2 together, and then the last one you'll also put, or you'll also see it on your quiz. So we have 1 over 20. Okay, I'm going to multiply 20 by something to get, obviously not 10. What about 100? Think about it. 20 times 5 is 100, right? So if 5 goes on the bottom, it's going to go on the top because I want it to be 1 as a whole number, right? 5 over 5 is 1. Okay, we're not actually changing the amount, we're just changing how we look at it, our units. All right, so 5 over 100. So how do I, this one is a little bit different, okay? Not terribly different, but let's go ahead and write it as a decimal. Remember, here is my decimal, and we have to go 2 places, right? There's my tenths, there's my hundredths. I only have a 5, so obviously the 5 has to go in the last place. All right, I don't have anything else. Well, if I don't have anything else, I still need to show with a 0. Why? Because if I take away that 0, it'll be 5/10, which is a totally different fraction. Okay, so, and then I'm going to put a 0 here just to show I don't have a whole number, right? So here I have 5/100. All right, let's do this last one, and then you'll be off on to taking your quiz. All right, 6/25. All right, so I'm going to focus on that denominator, 25. 25 times what is going to give me 100? 4. Look at that. All right, so I'm going to show 4 over 4. All right, then I'm going to multiply across. I have 6 times 4 is 24, and then 25 times 4 is 100. So my fraction ends up being 24 over 100. Okay, so what does my decimal look like? My 4 has to be in the hundreds place. I'm going to go ahead and show. There's my tenths, there's my hundreds. My 4 has to be here. It's my last number. And then my 2 has to be here. Okay, and then I'm going to put a 0 here to show I have no whole numbers. And my answer is 24 hundredths. All right, go ahead, solve for 51/50ths. It's a little bit different than what we've been doing, but I think based off of what we've done so far, you will be able to figure it out. If not, you can ask me.